Okay, we're good to go. All right, welcome everyone. Uh, and it's been a while since we have done an Apex for lunch. So welcome to all of you coming back. And for those of you who haven't been here before, sit back, relax, and get ready to ask questions. Um, Today we're going to talk about terrific tariffs or tariff terror. And depending on your perspective and where you sit in this whole process, you could be in either or both. Uh, you could feel that this is a terrific idea and these things are going to be wonderful, or you could be very, very much afraid uh, of what's going to happen when these tariffs are implemented uh, across the board. So that's sort of what we hope to talk about. We've got a couple of other things to throw in the mix, uh, but we'll answer some questions first. Um, these are questions that you all had. Um, and so what I'd like to do is push this out. We'll come back to it a little bit later, but these are the questions that people wanted to have answered. What's Congress doing about the situation? Uh, and let me come back to this. Let's talk about uh, the future of relations uh, and where we are. Uh, our current relations between the U.S. and Mexico are fairly good. Um, Looking back at some of the past uh, issues that we've had, a lot of those have been, sort of put to rest. And Mexico has elected a new president. And this slide is actually from the last class that we had together in June. Um, uh, Mexico had just elected President Sheinbaum, and she was she hadn't even taken office yet. And we knew that we would get a new president in 7 weeks. And what I said then was, if Trump gets elected, he's going to try to bully President Sheinbaum, and it won't go well. And if Harris gets elected, which she didn't, she'll work directly with the president of Mexico, and it could be a remarkable change. Well, if you've been watching the news lately, Trump has decided that he's going to put these tariffs in place. And Sheinbaum met with him a couple of times, uh, and all of a sudden he backed off on a lot of what he was saying he was going to do with Mexico. And uh, to her credit, she has stepped up and done a couple of different things that he wanted done, but uh, sometimes when you're faced with a bully, the only thing you can do is smack them in the face. Uh, we always said punch the bully in the mouth because that usually slows them down to the point where you can get a word in edgewise, and then you can work to uh, right the conversation. And in a way, that's what she did. She pushed back and got him uh, on his heels as far as what he was going to uh, want from Mexico. If we look at where the peso has gone, uh, the peso to dollar exchange rate, and this I thought this graph was a good one to show. It gives us some time going back to 1995 and coming all the way through to 2024. You can see that um, the last time that Trump was president, um, the peso devalued against the dollar considerably and got up almost to 26 to 1. It's currently at 19.5 to 1. Um, and so we're looking at this and saying, okay, what's going to happen with all of the changes, where, what's this ratio going to be? Um, and I'm not a genie and I don't have a magic ball. Um, but I think what we're going to see is that the peso um, is going to hold its own in the international market and that the dollar is going to fall. Um, and I think that if this was just a question of what happens between Mexico and the U.S., that might be different, but it isn't just Mexico and the U.S. It's two economies, the Mexican economy and the U.S. economy, and what's going to happen in the international monetary exchanges. And U.S. dollar is going to take a beating in the monetary exchange. We've already started to see it. So the dollar is going to fall. And uh, if the Mexican peso holds, then what we'll see is the ratio will drop and could get down to somewhere around 16 again. So to start the conversation, one of the things we need to know is what is a tariff? It's a tax or a duty to be paid on a particular class of imports or exports. Now we've been paying duties uh, forever. Um, uh, I grew uh, up on the northern border, and we went back and forth. My parents were immigrants from Canada, and we went back and forth quite often. And so there were things that we could take that we didn't have to pay duty on, and there were things that we would have to pay a duty on. And so early in my life, I got used to the whole concept of paying duties on different items as we moved. And in modern times, we've had duties on cross-border movements, except for the de minimis quantities. You know, uh, in the last trade agreement, we increased the de minimis between Mexico and the U.S. to $250. So if it has less than $250, it's considered de minimis and it doesn't have, regardless of what it is, it doesn't have uh, a tariff or a duty. So what's different now? Um, well, one thing that's different is that these duties or tariffs are being put across the board. They're not specific, uh, and they're uh, substantial, 25%, something like that. Um, So how do they work? Well, normally a product is made, if you had a product that's made in two countries, well, one country imports some product from the other country and it sells at the same price or lower than the home country wants to sell its product. So then the foreign product is taxed coming into the buying country to raise its cost to a competitive level. Um, for example, I think I use this in the presentation, avocados. Um, the US buys its avocados, they grow avocados, but they also buy avocados. And so we can look at the avocados and say, how does this work? But it's true for all products. Uh, in Mexico, they can make things cheaper. And so if we want, the government wants to limit are buying of Mexican-made product, what they do is they put a tax on it. Uh, so if I want to buy uh, something in Juarez and I bring it back, uh, they tell me, well, you have to pay an additional tax on that of 25%. Well, is that 25% still going to be beneath what I pay in the US? Or is it higher than what I would pay in the US? And what they're looking at is to push the price up so that it's higher than what it would cost me to buy a US made product, or it's easier for me to buy the US made product. And and by doing that, they force the economy, they force us in the US to buy US product. At the same time, because there's a reciprocal tariff going in. They said she pushed back. She has announced a reciprocal tariff. So if you're shipping from the US into Mexico, there's going to be a 25% increase in the cost of it going in. Um, and that makes it less attractive to people in Mexico buying US product. And so this war continues to work to deteriorate the transnational trade. Um, and the high sounding uh, goals are to grow our own industries and rather than buy cheaper product from outside, spend the money here and reinvest that money so that it grows U.S. industry. The problem with that thinking is we are not a world in isolation. Um, we have built huge trade uh, organizations and trade agreements uh, throughout the entire globe. And uh, people know and realize that, yeah, I can get a bargain buying this from some other country, but, uh, you know, am I going to get the same delivery? Am I going to have the same opportunities? And we make those decisions on a daily basis. All of us are doing that. That's part of our jobs. And so we're working in this environment. And all of a sudden, what we get is if uh, General Motors makes a component in Canada and it moves to the US, and there's a 25% increase on the cost of that because it came from Canada to the US, and the US moves it into Mexico, and there's a 25% increase on it because uh, that's the going rate for us to move stuff into Mexico. Now all of a sudden it's 25 plus 25. And so it's somewhere over 50% higher when Mexico finishes with it and sends it back to the US to get assembled into the car. It now has another 25% added onto it. So it could be as high as 75 or 80% higher in price to get it into the car. So are there ways around this? Yeah, there are a lot of different things that we can do that minimizes this. Canada could ship in bond uh, into the US and just use the transportation system to take it to the Mexican border and cross it in bond so that it's actually viewed from a customs perspective as a transaction between Canada and Mexico. And then the material goes in at whatever the cost was in Canada. But then the folks in Mexico have to be able to replicate what the US operation was that in the first scenario. So if they can do that, then that product gets done and then it can come back to us and we pay the 25% up when we import it in, but it's still cheaper than it would have been if we imported to the US, did the operation, moved it to Mexico, and paid the tariff there, and then moved it back because there's no tariff between Canada and Mexico. It's only between the US and Mexico and the US and Canada. So doing it this way create some havoc. So we go back to the avocados. Mexico and the U.S. both grow avocados. In Mexico, and this is just spitball numbers here. Don't hold me to it. They cost 10 pesos or 50 cents. In the U.S., avocados cost $1 or 20 pesos. So exporters in Mexico seize the opportunity and sell their product into the U.S. market. And then the local growers in the US put pressure on the government to protect their sales, and the US puts a tax on incoming avocados of 50 cents. So then uh, they cost 50 cents. We put 50 cents on it. Now we've got $1. And so we're on par with the sale price of the avocados in the US. So this actually was the way things were working before our election. So the price to the customer in the US is now $1, and the Mexican exporter is still selling at 50 cents. So the Mexican exporter is getting his money, but the US consumer is spending $1. And so the extra 50 cents goes to the US government as a tax on the product, but the tax is being paid by the consumer. And then my note was the price of avocados has been debated since before NAFTA. NAFTA was changed to support the US growers. Um, so this particular one is a long-standing thing where we've had duties and tariffs in place over a long period of time. This NAFTA goes back 30 some years. Um, so um, this isn't new, but the way it's being done is new. And it's being done um, in a way that's very deceptive because uh, the government in the US has not told the people in the US that we're going to raise your taxes by 25% on everything that comes from Mexico and everything that comes from Canada, and 145% on everything that comes from China. Uh, and so we're seeing that the impact, uh, I tried to get a picture and I couldn't find one of the docks, but from a friend of mine was in LA Harbor a few days ago and said that the harbor is almost empty. Uh, there's very little shipping in and out. And if you remember going back to COVID, there were ships that were at anchor for 55, 56 days waiting to get in to get unloaded in LA or Long Beach, either one. So it's had a very significant impact on trade. What's going to happen now is we're going to see the inventories that the big box stores like Target and Best Buy, Walmart, those inventories are going to get uh, eaten up. Um, and once those inventories are gone and they need to restock, then there's going to be a lot of sticker shock. We're seeing rising prices in the US already. A lot of that is based on we know it's going to go up, so we're going to go up early. But there's more out there, and as long as these rules are in place, um, we're going to have a much more expensive lifestyle without a whole lot of improvement. So Trump's proposal was to put a tariff on everything that's imported, make every foreign product more expensive for the US consumer, and force them, the US consumers, economically to buy US brands. So the avocados on the shelf, now at par from past trade agreements that we had, are now going to be uh, more expensive because we're going to raise that tariff again and unbalance it so that uh, the foreign avocados are more expensive than the local avocados, and we'll buy the cheaper alternative. And that goes for manufactured products as well. Um, some products had less economic competition in the US, and those products will cost more anyway, and the US consumer will pay more. And it is a tax on the US consumer. So when you stop to think about all of the consumer goods that we buy, the beer, the vegetables, fruits, um, food, all of those things are going to be impacted. Um, and um, it'll be interesting because if they leave de minimis alone, a whole lot of people are going to be going back to walking across the downtown bridge, uh, Paso del Norte Bridge, or the Stanton Street Bridge, You have to walk in on Stanton and out on Paso del Norte, but they'll be making that trek to go to the store and buy groceries in Juarez and then carry them back. If it's under 250, uh, then they're still within de minimis and they don't have to pay a duty. And they'll save a lot of money. So how is this gonna impact? It's gonna impact virtually everyone. Um, Tariffs can be beneficial. I mean, they can protect a local company against unfair business. Uh, there's been attempts in different markets to take over that market and limit your options to one or two players. And so a tariff at times can be beneficial to help that industry and support new industry growth. In these cases, tariffs are negotiated, but they're negotiated on a case-by-case basis. The avocados are a great example. On that particular one, going back to pre-NAFTA, we had negotiated deals on what we were going to charge as duty on incoming uh, avocados. And then in NAFTA, it was actually a, a an additional block to the law on how we were going to deal with that. And it was sort of left alone when we went to the updated NAFTA 2 that Trump put in place the last time he was in office. Uh, but uh, that's a special case, uh, and and did it help the U.S. avocado market? No, no. They were about as big as they were going to get anyway, uh, but they benefited from not having to be competitive on price. But a lot of other things, um, you know, we've had tariffs on other uh, products, but everything is done on a case by case basis, and it's a negotiation. What are they going to get? What are they going to give on both sides? And many have expiration dates so that they can spur those local companies to get better at their business. Trump's tariff is a threat. Uh, it's not the beneficial case for tariffs. It's a threat to trade. And it's a threat to trade with not just Mexico, but Mexico is one of our largest trading partners. Uh, and so for us, it's of maximum importance. Some background on this, um, just so you know, Smoot-Hawley tariffs was made into law in 1930. Now, I don't think any of us were alive then, but it was protectionist against all international products. And it's best known as the reason of, and the background for the Great Depression. In 1930, the economy worldwide was a little shaky, and Smoot-Hawley went into effect and uh, put protectionist tariffs on everything coming into the US from Europe, from Asia, uh, from Central and South America, and Canada. And that drove the whole economic engine of the world to slow down. And it created the Great Depression. Coming out of the Great Depression, you had uh, Franklin Delano Roosevelt on the U.S. side doing the the conservation corps to put people to work to get them off the street. Hitler was starting to make a lot of noise in Europe, and he and the brown shirts took over, and then Mussolini did the same thing in Italy, and the strong men made their move to take over, and that generated straight into World War II. So protectionist tariffs back in 1930 didn't work well. We go back one step behind that. The Tariff Act of 1890 created a tariff rate up to 50% on incoming goods as a protection for local manufacture in the US. Now, going back to 1890, we weren't even 48 states at that point. We were only 44 states um, in the US. And Mexico was still trying to figure out what their government was and how it was going to be run. Um, but it was interesting to note that it went so badly in 1890, 91, 92 that in 1894, a new president was elected, and that wasn't expected at the beginning when in the election of 1890, but it went so badly that in 1894 they elected a new president and rescinded almost all of the Tariff Act of 1890 with the Tariff Act of 1894. So we've been doing this for a while, and it's interesting because there's consistency. Every time we go crazy and put tariffs in place, one, it taxes the people that are buying the product. So I, as a consumer, am paying extra tax so that we can prove a point of something. Uh, it's not something I'm happy with, not something I want to settle for. And greater numbers of people have been put in that same position, and they're not crazy about it either. And so we had depressions. Um, are we going to have a depression this time? That depends on whether Trump stays at the point that he's at now and continues. And it's hard to tell whether he's moving or not because it's very difficult to figure out whether the information we get from the government is honest or not. We have to go to outside third sources to get any sort of perspective. Currently, the president of China, or the premier of China, and the president of the US tell two different stories. And it's kind of amazing that more and more people in the US believe Xi than believe Trump. So, um, where's that going to take us and where's that going to lead us? Um, I want to get to your questions, but I just wanted to put this in. Um, And those of you who have been with us for a while know that I'm fascinated by Waymo. Um, and Waymo, um, Elon Musk, the uh, the man who gives us Tesla, well, doesn't give us Tesla, he sells them when he can. But anyway, you probably know that story. He has started waging a war on Waymo. Waymo was originally a Google offshoot, but then Alphabet, when Alphabet spun off Google, and Alphabet owns Waymo. And so Musk last week, when he said he was going back to uh, work on his uh, cars and get his business out of the tank, they dropped 70%. Uh, he said that he was going to take on Waymo and he was going to teach them how to do um, car fares and driverless taxis the right way. To which the president of Waymo uh, made it known that they have 250,000 paid drives per week. And to date, uh, Musk has delivered zero. So this is going to be another interesting thing for us to watch in the local markets. And since our meeting back in June, um, it's interesting to note that Austin now has Waymo, and they're looking at expanding into San Antonio and uh, straight up and down 35E. So uh, that's going to be interesting to see the growth rate there. Waymo uh, has a radar system that is far superior to anything that Musk has on his driverless cars. So it's gonna be interesting to watch. Anyway, just a slight diversion because I'm fascinated by it. Um, Now let's go back to the questions. Um, okay, so what is Congress doing about this situation? Well, uh, that's in the eye of the beholder. Um, I think that they're giving Trump a certain amount of latitude that I would not uh, like them to give. But ultimately, uh, to turn this all into law, Congress needs to pass it. The president cannot create, he can on an emergency basis create tariffs, but he has to go back and get the support of Congress. Congress has to turn it into law. At this point, they are doing nothing, um, and that in itself is a problem. Uh, how will tariffs benefit flexibility with suppliers? Well, if you're price sensitive, it's going to force you to make some tough choices. Um, so, from the supplier's perspective, they're just going to have to see can they uh, beat some uh, price point that will make them attractive. Um, and or will we find a way of dealing without that particular product? Um, so yeah, in some ways I can see where it might benefit uh, suppliers if they can find a way. As I suggested, Canada could make a part and ship it direct to Mexico and cut out whatever operations they were doing in the US, and then we just imported into the US one time for the auto assembly. Um, and I think that there will be a marketplace for things of that sort. Um, and is our economy strong enough to endure these changes? I'm not sure whether we're talking US economy or Mexican economy. I think in the combined economy, yes, we'll be strong enough, but we don't want it to last for very long. Um, and I go back to the 1890 and 1894 tariff laws. Uh, we need to see the light. We need to make a change politically, and we need to get back on course. Uh, the impact on tariff for the USA companies operating in Mexico. This is still a real open question because uh, how much of that content is US content and is it just on the price of the materials or how are they going to do that? They haven't really explained what the law is because they didn't bother to negotiate and determine the law before they came out with a statement saying this is what we're going to do and it's going to be this percent. So uh, I think it's going to be some time before this all gets defined because um, if any of you remember back when they were writing the harmonization code and and that set the stage for NAFTA, um, that was years. Uh, I had some friends who were actually involved in writing the code, writing all of the legalese that goes with every single one of the product definitions. So it takes a long, long time to do that. Uh, should we prepare for tariffs to last more than a year? Great question. Um, I would say prepare as best you can and then pray that somebody gets their wits back about them and we don't go down that road. Um, what should we as small binational merchants expect in the coming months? I think it's going to be a rocky road from the point of view that there's going to be a lot of doubt on what the rules are and how it's going to impact. I think you're going to get better information from the government in Canada and the government in Mexico than you are from the US government. That's unfortunate, but I believe that will be the case. They are going to be better sources of information because uh, we just don't have a process in place in the US to do that and make that known in a way that makes sense. It's not rational. Uh, are there solutions to this? Yes, elections. Um, there could be. I mean, there could be other solutions that are even more dramatic than that. Um, and- but uh, not much is going to happen until next year um, when we have the next congressional election. And if Congress in that election, if uh, the Democrats pick up seats and take over both parts of Congress, then things will slow down because they won't move forward on this. And as I said earlier, it's going to take an act of Congress to actually turn this into law. Um, is any portion of the VAT or tariff recoverable? The problem here is that tax is paid by the consumer, so it won't be recoverable. Value added tax maybe, but I'm not sure because that gets added on uh, before the product is sold. So that probably will continue, but that's just another increase in price. But that goes back to the selling government, not the buying government. So Mexico would probably work to keep that in place. It's an income stream. Uh, and then uh, developments on tariffs. Um, it's changing every day. You can go crazy trying to keep up with it. Uh, yeah, and not just the top end of things. Uh, he sent um, what, the other day. He said that he was in negotiation, uh, but the number of countries that he said he was in negotiation with was higher than the number of countries in the world. So we're not 100% sure that we understand what the scope is. Um, it's probably not as being advertised. What strategies to follow to effectively manage and the continued tariff increases and challenges? Um, if if you if you have options to go to other markets and start finding other suppliers, um, I would start in that direction. And there may be, think about it this way: in you go through the whole, process of bringing on another supplier from another country, and you go through all the approval processes, and you get them to become an approved supplier. Um, Going forward out the other end of this, you still have them as an approved supplier. And if they're lower cost, it's going to take a while for things to right itself and for sanity to roam, and have an impact. And so uh, go and look around. It's a big world out there, and there are a lot of people making a lot of stuff. Uh, Europe is a good place to go and look because European auto manufacturers are doing a pretty good job and they're pretty competitive. So is China. Um, and Japan is willing to step in and pick up a lot of that as well. Um, so yeah, I think that looking around and searching the rest of the world to find markets. Transportation wise, it's going to be cheaper if the tariffs get suspended and go away. Uh, Transportation wise, it makes sense to go back to, you know, Canada, US, Mexico, and making that work. But at the same time, we we need to uh, we need to understand the depth of the problem that we're in currently, and this isn't going to go away. Uh, if we had a new president come in today, they could reverse a lot of this, but some of it, the impact of it is going to be around for some time. Um, and can we give you some more updates? Yeah, sort of what we were trying to do with this was to give you an update and see if we couldn't get something started. Uh, Does having a foreign trade zone avoid tariffs, and if so, what document is needed? Well, if you have a foreign trade zone, you don't pay tariff on the inbound material because you export it out. So as long as the foreign trade zone is operating, you should be fine. You're not consuming in the U.S. and tariffs are a consumption tax, so you should be fine. Uh, you check with your customs officials, but I am pretty sure that you won't pay any tariff because there is no consumption. The purchase isn't done uh, at the foreign trade zone. It just moves through. The purchase is between the buyer and the seller. And if the delivery point is outside the country, then the tariffs don't apply. Real quickly, how will the tariff policy affect Mexico? Mexico is in a pretty good position. Uh, I think the president is a gutsy woman and much more intelligent than the president of the United States, and can work circles around him. And I think that she'll have the support of the rest of the Mexican government to do the things that are necessary to make Mexico a winner here. And I think they will be. Um, how will tariffs benefit from flexibility? USMCA compliant items. USMCA is suspended if we, well, it isn't, but it would be if we legally adopted the tariffs. Um, and then eventually all of this will impact the supply and demand dynamics for our company. Yes, it will. Um, and part of what we're seeing now is reaction to the news, but the actual impact hasn't hit yet. Uh, so is that going to be an issue further along? Yeah, if we get to that, but we don't know if this is just him blowing smoke or if this this is something until Congress moves. Uh, Nothing's happened. So we just have to wait and see. Um, and so I think I've covered pretty much the other uh, questions. So we went a little long. I apologize for my lateness. I was teaching in Eastern Europe and it was a bear to get back from there, but I made it. And uh, next professional development meeting will be in Juarez on the 16th of May. With Erica Don and Alejandro Sandoval. Should be a good meeting. And we've got some plans, and Deanna is loaded with plans and raring to go. But we've got some more certifications coming and some other things available to you. So if you're looking to increase your education, welcome aboard. DD Bricks workshops in Juarez in July. If you've not been to one of those, it's kind of it's it's good. It's a good workshop um, and well delivered. So thank you for registering, and we will probably do this again in about 4 weeks and see what's changed. Questions? Okay, Deanna, it's all yours. Deanna?
Hello?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chet.
You're going to say goodbye to everyone?
Yes.
They're your guests.
Yes. Thank you to everyone for joining us this time, and we will send you and keep on date for the next event.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sis.